Hi everyone, thank you for joining me here at Soto Station. If you were here last time, thank you for joining us again. This is our last Boyle Heights walking tour before we shift over to South LA. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so it's our last one, but it'll be really good, hopefully. So before we begin, I'm gonna do a quick land acknowledgement. We are currently on Tongva land, and the indigenous people are the first residents of what we currently know as Boyle Heights. I feel that it's important to emphasize that indigenous people are still living on the land and they are not simply part of the past. A little about me, my name is Jamie Choi and I'm the teaching artist intern for DSTL Arts for this workshop series. I'll be the one doing this and the upcoming walking tours. I've published a full chapbook called Disappearing from View with DSTL Arts, which got published last year of November, so 2024. Also, a quick disclaimer, I'm not an expert in any way when it comes to everything there is to know about the locations of the walking tours. So think of me as someone who is essentially telling you about all of the things I've learned through the process of my internship. So the general route, Louise has explained already, it'll be about a 0.7-mile walk and we're gonna try to stay in the shade, we'll see, but be aware that it might be a bit warm today. And yeah, I think first of all, I'm gonna just do a quick shout out also to Soto Station itself. So the Soto Metro Station is, as a part of the East Side Gold Line extension opened in 2009. And it connects to many places in Boyle Heights. But the main thing I want to point out is that when you walk up through the station, you'll be able to see an artwork called Landings by Nobuo Nagasawa. Her intention with the artwork, which depicts migrating birds and a metal nest, sculpture with a fiberglass egg in the middle, was to acknowledge the importance of Boyle Heights as a landing place for people from diverse cultural and ethnic backgrounds. It's a really cool piece of work, artwork that you could enjoy at any time. So feel free to check it out afterwards if you are interested. It's right down there. So yeah, it's gonna be, I feel like, a good lens for us to work with throughout our walking tour today. So I just wanted to point that out. So yeah, I think that's it for the intro. So we can start walking now, the walking part of the tour. Let's go.
Jamie, any info about structure?
Which structure? This one, I'm not too sure about this one. I don't think I did research. It's haunted though,
Yeah,
100%. Don't Google this, but from what I understand, it's a haunted house and you should not disturb it by insulting the house.
It sounded like a warning. It sounded more like an invitation is what you said.
No. That was, oh gosh, the air.
Like a challenge.
Their air is trying to get me. See, you see what happened, Abraham? You see, you said things and that happened. Interested in this building? You could buy this building, Abraham.
Actually, it does look like
If it's haunted, forget it.
I know, you're gonna have to cleanse it or I don't know. You're gonna have to do some serious work on it if it's haunted. Tomi-san. Cool little location. Aww. Okay, we'll stand here. Okay. So our first stop is Otomi-san, a Japanese restaurant that originally opened in 1956. The residence behind the restaurant, there's like a house behind the restaurant, was first built by the Nishiyama family in 1890, when LA was starting to become home to the largest population of first-generation Japanese immigrants. The commercial building here was constructed where the family originally operated a grocery store. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941, the Nishiyamas were interned by US government until 1946. For those who may not know, the United States incarcerated about 120,000 people of Japanese descent in 10 concentration camps. 2/3 of the population that were put in these camps were US citizens. So 2/3 of the population that were put in these quote-unquote camps, which were concentration camps in essence, they were US citizens, which is not unlike what we are dealing with in our current political climate. So that's like a unfortunate parallel. But fortunately for the Nishiyamas, they were able to retain their property upon their return. But it can't be said, the same cannot be said for a lot of people who were stripped of their property and wealth in the process of those internships, internment camps. And going back to the restaurant now, originally the restaurant was called Otemo Sushi Cafe, and it was opened in 1956 by a couple now only remembered as the Setos, quote unquote. Ownership changed by the 1970s, and it was purchased by Aki and Tomi Seino, and it was renamed Otomi-san. So that's the name that's currently now. It's been named that for a long time now. After one of the owners, Aki Seino, passed away in 2005, Tomi Seino decided to close the restaurant. And 6 months later, a local business owner, Yayoi Watanabe, purchased the restaurant in an attempt to keep the Japanese history of the neighborhood alive. Just last year, in July 2024, actually another ownership change happened. So this was very recent. Jeffrey Ige, a regular at Otomi-san, took over the restaurant. And according to Ige, the owners wanted it to go to someone who would not change it, basically. And back in 2016, this is about Jeffrey Ige, he was working 2 jobs and he was eating at Otomi-san daily. And his go-to menu item was oyakodon, which is a chicken and egg simmered in a dashi broth served over a bowl of rice. Yeah. I mean, you can check out their menu. It looks pretty good, you know? His grandmother also owned a convenience store on 4th and Mott Street near Roosevelt High School. And Otomi-san is considered the oldest continuously operating Japanese restaurant in Los Angeles. It was also listed as a historic cultural monument by the LA City Council as of 2022. And encountering this location, I think it made me realize how much of the preservation efforts are community-based. It's like always an effort that the community tries to make because they value certain locations. And so that'll kind of be the pattern we see throughout the tour. But yeah, that's it for Otomi-san. If you want to take pictures or make any notes about the location, feel free. But you know, I feel like the menu looks really good. I would like to try their food, you know. Yeah, and there's like apparently people who just kind of stop by to say hi to the owners and like things like that. So it's really cool. There's like the interior is very like old school and very much like not very changed, I would say. It's not too modernized, which is really awesome. All right, we can move on now, I think, to the next, if people would like. Yeah, we're stopping here for now. We're actually looking at the Buddhist center over here, the Risho Kosei Kai Buddhist Church. That's our second stop, and it's also shortened to RKLA. This location represents the LA branch of the larger Risho Kosei Kai lay movement that was established in Japan. The new religion was founded by Nikyo Niwano and Miyoko Naganuma in 1938. According to their website, Kazuko Nakamura, who was sent here for the LA branch, used to do like readings outside of her own home until they were able to purchase this building for their headquarters in 1976. And the previously there was another Buddhist like temple here that moved to Little Tokyo. But yeah, they were able to move in the 70s. And their website basically says this about the meaning of their teachings. So Risho means establishing the teachings of the true Dharma or Lotus Sutra in the world. Lotus Sutra, by the way, is one of the scriptures canonically accepted in Mahayana Buddhism. And Ko of Kosei Kai signifies mutual exchange of thought among people seeking spiritual growth. That is the principle of spiritual unity among all human beings. And the Sei stands for perfection of the personality and the attainment of Buddhahood. Kai means association of society. These are like the meanings they've listed on their website. And they also like hold regular community workshops as well. So for example, tomorrow, April 6th, they're having a kids' Dharma biology day where kids can learn how to be scientists. So they are teaching them tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah, they're having yeah, they're very active in like doing free community events with people, and like it's really cool. I was like, this is really awesome. I didn't know about this. So yeah, I was like, that would be fun too. It says all ages welcome if y'all want to check it out, but I feel like it'll be mostly kids. They're like, okay, I guess. But yeah, it's really cool. It's a cool community resource. And just like with Otomi-san, I think, this location is like, it serves to highlight that the Japanese immigrants in this area have always had influence and presence within the community. They've like enmeshed themselves in here and like really like provide lots of like different like things to the community. And, there's like ways in which like they've shaped Boyle Heights as it is now. So yeah, I think it's such a cool like location. I wouldn't have known about it until I did research. And yeah, if you want to check out other like workshops, you can find it on their website. Yeah, so if you want to take notes on anything, let me know. I can repeat myself on any points because I know there's noise around as well. Boyle Heights in general has a very fascinating history. Yeah. But it really, I feel like boils down to people trying to gain access to, economic economic, what is it, like climbing the economic ladder
Yes.
despite all of the challenges that were presented to them. And the obviously like blatantly racist like laws and like things like that. People are able to kind of find their footing here a bit, yeah,
Well,
compared
it was
to other
ground zero
locations.
for any immigrant
Yeah.
who wanted to, because it was kind of a neutral zone.
Yeah, and so like the laws, discriminatory practices are a little more lax basically here, even if there were obvious like racism and yeah, and cemetery is a really good representation of that. I feel because yeah. Okay, we are here. All right, congrats on making it to our final destination, final stop. We are now at the Evergreen Cemetery, and so we'll just go through some of the historical aspects of the cemetery. The cemetery was established in 1877, and it's considered the oldest non-denominational cemetery. So non-denominational means not following any particular religion. And back in the day, so to speak, it was like it like had more progressive practices because it was one of the few cemeteries that did not ban Black people from being buried here. And regardless of that, though, there were a lot of discriminatory practices anyways, because a lot of the cemeteries were segregated and by race. And while the cemetery didn't necessarily ban people of certain races, they still did this thing where basically where the potter's field is, which is like all the way that side of the corner, where that's where like indigents who are like people who are very needy, who don't have money, like they had to pay to have their dead buried. And the cemetery charged people to be buried there in this potter's field, and the prices were based on ethnicity and age. So, for example, Chinese people had to pay the highest amount, between $10 to $15 back in those days. So for context, like $10 to $15 would be about $335 to $501 like today's money. And well, I mean, here's a question for you. How much do you think white people paid to be buried here?
Like $2.
They got paid to be buried.
Huh?
They were free.
Yes, they were free. So white indigents were buried here for a grand total of $0, which is still $0 in today's money. And it's $0 like that. I didn't have to convert that, thankfully. But like think about the price difference, right? 300 something to 500 something versus $0. That's like a huge amount of money, especially for back in those days. All of these people were very like impoverished. They didn't have money. But anyways, the cemetery was running out of space. So in 1922, the Chinese community in this area purchased land further east of Evergreen. The city saw this as an opportunity to make further use of the Potter's Field. So they were like, oh, like if you move they basically told the Chinese people who were already buried here that if you move your dead to the new cemetery, we'll pay you $2 per body. Yeah, so they said, we're gonna pay you $2 per body to move your buried dead that were already buried here to the new cemetery, when all of these people paid like $10 to $15 per body. Yeah, so yeah, they were just trying to make use of that Potter's Field even further. And another interesting thing that happened was in 2005, while widening the street for the Gold Line extension, the Metro accidentally disinterred, so they disturbed 118 graves at Evergreen Cemetery, and the skeletal remains for Chinese, Latine, and European individuals, along with thousands of grave goods, were disturbed. Yeah, so they just happened to dig up all of these like bodies and like items that were buried with the bodies. Yeah. And it was evident that Chinese artifacts dominated a lot of the items that were found there. And it's theorized that that's where the original Chinese graves were in the Potter's Field. In September 2010, a memorial wall and garden, which is like on the other side, was dedicated near the Chinese shrine as a way of memorializing the location. There are a lot of locations in Boyle Heights that we could do like so many walking tours on. Actually, like we've not really covered that much on our walking tours, but I hope the ones that like we touched on today can give you some insight into the stories behind these establishments that we might like simply just walk past on any given day. But yeah, that's like the general gist of Evergreen Cemetery. But it's very interesting that there was a lot of these segregation practices, but at the same time, it was like one of those cemeteries that didn't necessarily bar people legally from burying their dead here. So there's a lot of people, and they were all separated, but that's basically the story of Evergreen Cemetery. But yeah, Evergreen is super interesting in its history. It's actually, you can always count on history to have messed up practices for poor people and people of color. So, I was like, oh, of course they did. As I was doing the research, of course they did. That's a fun little fact I'll share. There's so much so many, what is it, like square footage. It's hard to see on the map how big the place is.
The fact that they, actually did improvements to turn this into an actual running path.
Ah, gotcha.
And then, they added all the fitness equipment over there on that side on first.
Yeah.
Like, that was in itself kind of like an acknowledgement that this has really only green space in this area of the neighborhood.
Yeah. If only we had green spaces that weren't just cemeteries, but okay. In a way, I'm like, But yeah, it's wild that they found the original Potter's Field where the Chinese people were buried through the Gold Line extension because they were doing excavations. It's just,
Are these the relocation areas?
I'm like, is it?
These might be relocated, yeah. because it looks like the
These ones.
headstones are missing.
They also have mass graves here for those that are unnamed. Yeah. They do a lot here, actually. The cemetery is huge.
Like I said at the beginning, you can use any of the materials that we have here to either, finish your writing or do an illustration, whatever you like. I do have some iPads. If you're ready to actually submit now, you can go straight through submittable on the iPads. I also have a scanner, and if you need me to scan your artwork, I can do so as well.
What's your deadline?
The deadline to submit is May 31st.
Thank you for coming to our second Boyle Heights walking tour. That's it for today. Hopefully we get a lot of submissions for artwork or drawings or writing, anything really. So go ahead and submit, and we'll see you next time.
Subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, we're going to South LA next time, so
Yeah.
be there. In person or at home, it's up to you.
Thank you.
Bye.